Hi, everybody, and welcome aboard to Local Matters, where living local never felt so good. You know, there are many life events that can leave us feeling sad. And according to research, situational sadness can become so much more than situational sadness. You see, it can become full-blown depression. And depression can certainly leave a negative impact in one, if not many areas of your life, if it is not acknowledged and if it is not treated. And when we come back, we'll talk with one woman who knows all too well the stages of grief and how she dealt with her grief during the lowest times of her life. You know why? Because if it's local, it matters.
Dance. Let me see you move.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us and welcome back. You know, there are many life events that can leave us feeling sad. Situational sadness is a part of life, but what if your sadness lingers on and on and on and begins to affect areas of your life? And according to research, an estimated 15% of the adult population will experience depression at some point in their lifetime. Joining me to talk about a life event that happened to her and how it could have led her down the road of Depression Avenue. And she's here to talk about her experiences and bring awareness to and hope for anyone feeling hopeless is Dr. Angela Walker. It is so good to have you here on Local Matters. Welcome.
Thank you, Miss Dottie. Thank you for having me on your wonderful show.
Yep, thank you. You know what? Brain and beauty, guys, sitting right here. Former Miss JSU homecoming
Yes,
queen.
ma'am. Yes.
Yep, has her doctorate degree. That's what I've said. All wrapped in one, brains and beauty.
Thank you.
But
Thank
you know what? I'm sitting here thinking about, I can't imagine you being depressed about anything. But you have been, or you have been, and you have been so much so that you even wrote a book about depression. First of all, what sort of led you into depression?
Well, my husband Michael and I got married in 2000.
Okay.
Very excited about starting a family.
Right. Yes.
Had some challenges, you know, conceiving.
Yes.
And then we finally conceived in 2007.
Oh,
At that time,
yeah.
we had been married for 7 years.
Okay.
And unfortunately, our joy was short-lived as we miscarried with our first pregnancy in 2008.
Okay.
And that was the entrance of basically battling depression, feelings of inferiority, feelings of not being good enough.
Right.
Am good enough for my husband.
Right.
I'm a
Yeah.
woman. I'm a strong woman.
And especially
I
one
can't-
like you who,
and,
yeah, who
and
could,
I can't
yeah.
bear children. And
Yeah.
it was just a very, very low time for me, embarrassing. I had all these feelings, guilt, shame, what's wrong with me,
Yeah.
you know, all of those feelings.
Okay, so you mentioned you were shamed. You felt
Yes.
guilty. You felt inadequate. What is wrong with me? Why couldn't I take this pregnancy to full term?
Yes.
Did you feel like you were doing something wrong? Did you ever blame the doctor? Did you ever blame God?
Yes, I had those feelings to blame God. I'm living for you, God. Why did this happen to me?
Right.
I'm doing the best I can to be a great wife. Why did this happen to me? Have a great husband. What's going on?
Right.
So I did have those feelings to blame God, but also to blame the doctor. Why didn't he do more? Why didn't I know that I was miscarrying? You know, I was bleeding, I was cramping. I'd never been pregnant before. I'd never miscarried before. I didn't know anyone else who had ever miscarried, so I didn't know the symptoms of a miscarriage.
Oh, okay,
Because
okay.
when someone finds out that she's pregnant, she didn't run to books to find out about miscarriages.
Right, no, right,
So
right.
I had no idea that I was even miscarrying. So that blame and that guilt of, why didn't I go to the hospital?
Right. Because
You
most
know.
people would say, okay, I'm pregnant and I'm seeing blood. That's a big no-no.
Yes,
That's
big no-no.
a big no-no.
Yes, it's a big no-no, but after speaking with my doctor, I was told that it was implantation bleeding and that some light bleeding, you know, would occur, and that it was normal and that it was fine. So because of that,
You
I
kind of
did,
ignored it.
Yeah, I just said, well, okay, this is implantation bleeding, and just like you said, ignored it. But it was a lot more than that.
Right. So here's the thing. So after that happened to you, you go in, you get checked. You go in and you get checked.
Yes.
And I know you're in your book. You have something in there that talks about getting that call.
Yes.
You go in, you get checked. Did they tell you when you were in the office that you miscarried, or did they wait till you get home? Because I don't remember that part in the book.
Yeah, well, because I was having some issues with the bleeding, I
Okay.
did go see my doctor and did a vaginal sonogram. You know, everything was fine, and we thought that the bleeding was coming from a fibroid tumor.
Right.
After we looked at the images and everything.
Right.
And basically, everything is fine. My husband and I go home, and we later, I call it in the book, the telephone call from hell.
The telephone call from
Yes,
hell.
that's what I call it,
Yeah.
the telephone call
Yeah.
from hell.
Yeah.
When I'm on the phone with the doctor and he
says-
tells me that, yep, you're miscarrying, because I was still in the process of it.
You
So,
are
yes.
miscarrying
Yes.
at that point. Did he want you to come back in? Did he want you to stay at home? What did he want you to do?
Well, to basically, when a woman miscarries, their main concern is infection
Yeah.
and things like that. So he did give me some instructions. You know, you'll continue to bleed,
Mm-hmm.
but if you see this or that, please come to my office immediately.
Right.
So basically, I finished miscarrying at home.
Wow. You know what? We have got to
Yes.
go to break. When we come back, I want to talk more because I want to talk about, first of all, this book and how you spelled life. Lyfe, the significance
Yes.
of that spelling. When we come back, we've got to go to break. We'll be right back with more Local Matters. Don't go away. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Local Matters. We're living local, never felt so good. If you're just joining us, I am sitting here with Dr. Angela Walker. Dr. Walker is here with me here on set, and I'm so happy to have her because she wears many hats in the community. She is a professor at Talladega. She's a published author and writer. And of course, she's here talking about a subject matter that is very near and dear to her heart. And we're talking about this subject matter of depression. If you're just joining us, before we went to break, we were talking about depression. It was a situational event that led to your depression. Dr. Walker, you mentioned you had a miscarriage.
Yes. Yes.
You talked about how that made you feel.
Yes.
Inadequate.
Yes.
You felt like you blamed yourself.
Yes.
You got the dreadful call that you were miscarrying. So most people, and here's the thing, is that in itself is traumatic enough, but we don't hear a lot about it.
Right.
We don't hear a lot of people talking about it.
Exactly. It's extremely taboo. You don't hear people talk about it, and it's so common because 1 in 4 women will have a miscarriage, so that's 25%. I was that 1 in 4. And so it's taboo to not talk about it, but it's so common.
Right.
And when I went through my ordeal, and you suffer in silence. Let me tell you, I suffered in silence for many years because nobody did talk about it. And you're
Right.
talking about losing a child. You know, it doesn't matter if your child's 3 years old, 30 years old, 35, 40.
Right.
It doesn't matter. That baby was in me.
Right.
You know, and a part of me.
A part of you.
And I love that child. It's amazing how somebody you never seen,
never seen.
touched or held, but you can have so much love for it.
It
you
was
know?
a part of you. Right. As you say, it was a
Exactly.
part of you. And so as you
Exactly.
mentioned, most people, and it's so common, women go home and people, and here's the thing. Most people do say, well, you know, you can have more children.
Exactly.
You're young.
Oh, I
don't
heard
worry
it.
about it.
Yes, I talk about that in the book. Some of the things that people say to women who have miscarried, or at least you know you can get pregnant.
Right.
You know, or you can have more.
Right.
If someone goes to the mall and they lose their 3-year-old, you don't
Right.
say, well, you can have another one.
Right, don't worry about it.
You
She's
know,
only 3 years old.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, and she ate a lot too.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
so don't worry about
Yeah,
it. You wouldn't dare say
No,
that.
right.
So why would we say that to someone who has miscarried?
Okay.
Typically because there's no body, there's not a casket.
Right.
People just don't take it as seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And it is extremely, there was a death. Somebody died. My child died.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, your book titled Life After Death. I
Yes.
found it, first of all, before I even began to read it, how unique the way you spell the life. What's the
Yes.
significance of that spelling with the Y instead of the I?
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
my book is called There is Life After Death, Moving Forward After a Miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so blessed that the Trinity Broadcasting Network, TBN, their publishing company, published my book. So I'm
Wow.
so grateful for that influence and that they
Yes.
thought enough about my story
Yes.
that they wanted to publish it.
Yes.
But my book is called There is Life, Lyfe, and it's spelled with the Y because in life we have questions. Why did this happen? And we may not ever get the answer to our questions, but in our life we always have that why about something.
About something.
Exactly. And for me, it was a miscarriage. Why did this happen?
Okay.
And the letter Y is red
Okay.
in the word life because it stands out in people's life. Everybody always has a question about why.
We never thought about it like there's always, if it could be many for some people,
Yes.
but if not,
Yes.
there's always that one traumatic episode in somebody's life that
Exactly.
really sort of changed them.
Exactly.
That it really, and it stands out
Yes.
no matter the time limit.
No
I have one with
matter.
in my own life. We're not going to talk about that today.
Yes.
But there, it is always that one that really
always-
change.
Yes,
that
we
will change
all
you.
have one, Dottie. Everybody does. Writing my book was like I'm telling somebody to take your most traumatizing experience, and we all have one.
Right,
Take your most traumatizing experience and write about it.
and write about it.
Every detail, when it happened, how it happened, who was there, what, the whole nine. That's what that book was for me.
Wow.
My book is pretty much the first baby that I birthed.
Okay.
And it took 9 years
Get-
versus 9 months.
Oh, did it?
9 years.
Were you stopping and starting and said, I just
Yes.
don't know what to say?
Yeah, well, I'm an avid journaler, and I didn't
Okay.
know that my journals would one day become my book.
Well,
When I
okay.
got the telephone call from
Right,
Hale,
right.
I was on my couch with my journal.
Right.
So I was able to journal exactly when the doctor called, exactly what he said, the whole 9 yards. So during that process of, getting pregnant, losing the baby, my feelings, for years I journaled. And my journals became my book.
So that's one way that was very cathartic for you then. Very
most
cathartic.
certainly,
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah.
Just being able to write your feelings down,
And so for those people who really do love to write, you would
Yes.
encourage them that whatever it is that why, that red why in your life that you just keep saying why did it happen to me?
Yes.
There's many times that I wished that I would have started to journal earlier in life,
Yes.
because it's something about when you write something down, you capture it.
Yes.
I mean, you could talk about it from here to kingdom come, but you lose it.
Yes,
You lose it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But having it written, because when I pulled all my journals out from that time, and I was journaling a lot, I just looking back at what I had written 5 years ago, 9 years ago, was
Right.
absolutely amazing. And I said, oh, I forgot about that.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I remember that now. But
Right.
it was very therapeutic,
Yeah, for you.
extremely. Anybody who's dealing with, depression or some health issues, start to journal your feelings.
Start
it makes you
writing
feel
about
better.
It makes you feel.
Yes.
And speaking of that, I want to talk about, because as you mentioned, this happened. What year did that happen again for you when you went through your miscarriage?
It was 2008. It was January 2008.
2008.
Yes.
So you got this call because, again, it's something you don't talk about because people, they do take it so lightly. Well, girl, you have another baby. You're
Yes.
young. You guys you got years. But
Yes.
I want to talk more about what other feelings were you starting to really, were you starting to really feel? Were you starting
Yes.
to exhibit outside of? Because now that's a situational sadness that was a
Yes.
situation. But what other feelings were you starting to really exhibit, if you will? So when we come
Right.
back, I want to talk about that because it really could have taken you
Okay.
down a really dark road.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
So we'll come back. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome on back to Local Matters. We're living local, never felt so good. I am sitting here on set with Dr. Angela Walker, and I have been having such a great time talking with her because she is doing so much in her life. If you do not know Dr. Angela Walker, she's a professor at Talladega College. She is now a published author, and her book is There Is Life After Death. And this book is a great read because it's a great read because you've been talking about what women, and not only just women, but what families go through after a woman has a miscarriage, and you had a miscarriage, right there, very early on in your marriage, and you were and your husband so looking forward to starting a family, and this happens to you, and you explained in our last segment that why was so important to you because you went through these series of questions. Why me? Why this? I do everything right. I'm a Christian. I love the Lord. Why did this happen to me? And so I want to talk more about, of course, I want to talk more about this book because it's not a long book at all. It's a great read. You can do it in one sitting.
Yes, that's what everyone's been telling me. Angela, I can't put your book down. They start reading it and they say, I finished it. Because they can relate. It's very real. I call it rated R. I say
Yeah.
it's rated real.
Right,
You
rated. I like
know?
that. I like
That's what
that.
I tell everybody. I said it's rated
It's
real.
rated real.
Because when I journal, I'm not trying to impress anybody.
You know, just-
These are just my raw feelings, and those raw feelings made it into my book.
And and depression right now is so prevalent right now in society. You mentioned you went through that depression.
Yes, I
and
did.
And I'm sure you thought, okay, I should be depressed. It's a situational
Yes.
sadness right now. This happened to me. I'm going to be
Yes.
okay. You tried to do that. You just said, okay, I'm going to be okay.
Yes.
You didn't try to get any help or anything. How did you handle after you learned that you had miscarried? What did you do?
Yes. Well, I did go back to work.
Right.
I felt like I needed to get out of my home, be around people.
Okay.
I had the makeup on. I looked good, but I was hollow on the inside. I was crying on the inside. I was sad. I was depressed. And after years, I just thought, okay, this is just, I'm grieving. I lost a child. But after years had passed,
And you were still there.
and I was still there. I just could not move past the miscarriage.
You couldn't move
Emotionally, I couldn't
emotionally.
move past it. So I went to my husband. I said, we've got to get some help.
You think that and you said something to me, and this has been a really hot topic here lately. They've been talking about the new face of depression. The new face of depression are strong Black women. The ones who had the makeup on, they look great, they're out there, they're going to work, they're moving mountains. They're even doing what we call black magic, black girl
Yeah.
magic. But when they get home behind closed doors,
Exactly.
Ooh.
And that's how I would get home. I'd unlock the door and just fall on the couch sobbing.
Blaming yourself.
Yeah, just sad. I was still grieving my loss. And I was suffering in silence. I hadn't talked to anybody.
Suffering in
You know,
silence.
it's like, who would understand? And most women didn't qualify in my book to console me. Well, I don't want to talk to her. She has a child.
Right.
I don't want to talk to her. She doesn't know what it's like to miscarry.
Right.
So the pool of people who I thought qualified to console me just left me with nobody.
And you had-
Nobody but my husband, and bless his heart, the tone that I was setting in my home just was not good.
That was
And-
not.
Yeah.
And I like that too.
Yeah.
We don't realize that. Again, this is a great read because you talk about in the book. It's not just, again, it's never just the person that's going through this pain.
Exactly.
It's that even just sitting back, when you're just sitting watching somebody being depressed,
Yes.
it's very depressing for the
Yes.
person to watch.
It can drain them. And my husband's very upbeat, but there was nothing he could say or do that would make me happy. Only bringing my baby back would have made me
Right,
happy.
because how long can you say, "Are you okay?"
Exactly.
all right?
What can I do?
Well, you wanna go out?
Exactly.
What do you wanna do?
Exactly.
How long can you keep saying that?
Exactly. And then I'd snap out of it for a moment, and I'd say the last time I cried was the last time I was going to cry over this. And I get sucked back into that vacuum again. Even suicidal thoughts. Suicidal thoughts. Why am I here? I'm a female and I can't have children. I'm healthy. I'm young. I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm married.
Yeah.
Great marriage. Great career. Educated. I mean,
Right.
I've done
And,
everything.
and I'm sure somebody probably said to you, well, girl, you can adopt.
Yes.
Girl, just don't worry about
I've
it.
heard that. I think I've heard just about everything. You know, we talked about this in the earlier segment. Oh, you can have another one. At least we know you can get pregnant.
Right.
But I lost that one.
Right, yeah, and in your mind, you
I
couldn't
lost,
get.
yes.
What I do want to bring up, we've got some full screens because there are people watching. First of all, your book is a great read. I've
Thank
read it. It's a
you.
quick read. It's a
Thank
great
you.
read. Where can
Yes.
people find this book? Because I know I can get it from you because I'm right there with you at Talladega College. Hooray,
Yes.
hooray, hooray for that. Where can
Yes.
people get this book that just can't walk up to you and say, hey, Dr. Walker, I want to get one of your books?
Yes, well, they can go to my website,
Mm-hmm.
www.angelawalker.net, angelawalker.net, and anywhere books are sold, Books A Million online, Amazon, Apple, anywhere books are sold, people can purchase it online.
They can get, and I also want to
Yes.
bring up some 1-800 numbers, some hotline numbers too that I've got here because again, situational sadness happens to all of us, as we talked about earlier in the show. It could be anything, not a miscarriage, maybe your husband left you, who knows? But
Yes.
there are things that are going to trigger. These are some of the numbers here on our full screen. If you want to jot those down. For if you feel that perhaps maybe you or someone in your family needs help. Dr. Walker, I want to thank you for coming aboard Local
Thank
Matters. It's
you,
good having
Ms.
you and sharing your
Dottie.
story.
Thank you so
Again,
much,
this
Ms.
is a great
Remsen.
read. I've enjoyed reading it, and we hope you will too. We hope you'll go out and you'll get a book. You know why? Because if it's local, it certainly does matter. We'll see you back. Bye.